Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably know that I'm in the middle of a series in which I am describing how I have discovered for myself, with the help of others. I am standing on the shoulders of greatness, for sure, but I have rediscovered for myself a way of associating the Tarot with esoterica. And when I mention esoterica, I'm primarily speaking of the Kabbalah and astrology. And we've already gone through a whole bunch of videos, right? I've done a general overview video of why I'm doing this, what I'm doing, and what my approach to doing this work is. And then we did 3 videos on the major arcana. And then I did a video introducing briefly, I called it an intro light, what we are doing with the minor arcana. And then I did a deep dive video into the mechanics of the system I have landed on, with the help, again, of others, for the associations of astrology to the minor arcana. And I already did the first suit of the minor arcana as well, the wands. But just in case you have no idea what I'm talking about when I'm describing the associations that I am making for Tarot to the minor arcana, I will put a link up here so that you can hop on over and watch the first intro video to this part of the series, because I think that would be very helpful. If you already know astrology pretty well, then the next video after that would be more helpful for you. The one in which I dive into the mechanics of what I am doing with the astrological associations and the Tarot. So I recommend those. And I recommend watching them with paper and pencil and taking notes so that if you are interested in applying or practicing or experimenting with what I am working with, having that information jotted down would be very helpful, I think, for you. So those are my recommendations. And friends, today we're going to enter the suit of cups. But before I do that, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for doing all of those things that you do. Thank you for joining me on this journey first. And also thank you for hitting the thumbs up button and for subscribing. Those things that you do help other people find us, and our community grows, and it's because of you, and thank you. Also, thank you to those who comment in the comment section. You're a blessing to me. I love hearing from you. And we've gotten a comment on the video about the mechanics of associations that was very helpful in clarifying what I was trying to say in the video. So I recommend looking at that comment by the illustrious and beautiful and my spark of inspiration, Christine Payne-Towler. Yes, who is the creator of the Tarot of the Holy Light, by the way, which I also highly recommend. So, friends, today, again, we're starting with the suit of cups. Cups are water, right? Cups are the element of water. And what does water mean for us in Tarot? It is our emotions. It is our psycho-spiritual aspects of personality and self. It is also the unconscious. All of these ideas and elements are part of and described by the element of water. Because water flows. Water expands. Water is diffuse until it gets a container. And water is associated with the suit of cups. And that's what we're exploring in this video, I should say. And what we're going to do is I am going to put the cards up here for you to see, and I will go through each one of the cards one by one and give you upright meanings and reverse meanings, although I am not requiring anybody read with reversals. I've made this confession already. I don't read with reversals all the time. I do sometimes, but not always. But even if you don't read with actual reversals of cards, if you don't shuffle reversals into your deck when you read, when you lay out a spread, oftentimes there are positions which are considered challenging positions or shadow positions or positions that are problematic, let's say. And for the cards that land in those positions, these reversal meanings will have, I think, a lot of benefit for all of us. So we're going to go through all of the cards, upright reversal meanings, as they apply to the zodiac. Now, another thing I want you to remember is I'm not saying that you throw out all of the things that you've learned about Tarot so far, by any means. This is another layer that you can add into your current readings, or you can switch over to this kind of reading when it seems more appropriate to you. Yes? So if you have already got keywords in your minds for these cards and they pop up for you very strongly when you're reading, go with that. But this is, again, another layer that could add more depth, more breadth, more power, I think, to our readings. And that's one of the reasons why I'm exploring this. Okay, so are you all ready, friends? If you've got pen and paper, or that, it's great. Sidle up, get comfy, because this is going to be an interesting and hopefully enlightening and emotionally fulfilling walk through the cards. So we're going to start off with the Ace of Cups. Yes? And aces are the beginnings of all of the cardinal zodiacal signs for the Tarot. We started off with Aries being the first three cards of the Wands, and because it's cardinal fire. And here we have cardinal water, which is Cancer. You knew that, right? You knew that, yes? So here we have the Ace of Cups, and it is now associated with Cancer, the first decan of Cancer, yes? Which is ruled by Mars. So we have, which is ruled by Mars, which is ruled by the moon. I got myself all fiery with the discussion about Aries, right? So we're here in water with the moon. So cardinal water is Cancer, ruled by the moon. And the first decan of this series of three cards is exactly that. So what does that mean for us? An idea to think of and associate with this when the card is upright is emotional availability, perhaps. Yes? We are emotional. We are sensitive. We are interested in family matters. Home and family are important to us with the Ace of Cups. There might be some empathic power that is available to us. And because of that, we might end up starting to take on the mood of people around us. Yeah? Our empathy not being mature or controlled yet could affect how we feel, and we might absorb the feelings of others around us. Yes? Which might make us a little bit emotionally sensitive, but unpredictable, because we're affected by the people and the environment around us. Sympathy for others is strong with this card. And some psychic abilities are indicated with the Ace of Cups as well. Because the moon, is here in its domicile, its one and only domicile. Now the sun has one domicile. in Leo, and the moon has one domicile in Cancer. The rest of the planets have two domiciles, right? You remember that wheel that is aligned to see the ladder of lights going up and down. Yeah, we saw that in the first or second video of this series on the minor arcana. So the moon is in its domicile of Cancer. So what does that mean? We have an emotional opening. Yeah, there's safety here. Cancer has some protection available to it, right? Cancer, the crab, has a shell. So there is some safety here. But also there's nurturing. Nurturing begins here with the moon, yes? Feelings flow naturally. Our capacity to receive and give care is strong with the Ace of Cups, yes? And you can see in the Rider-Waite-Smith card here, the hand holding the cup, it's overflowing with water, right? Yeah, we have the dove of spirit, perhaps, coming down with the bread of life, filling our cup. So but still, this is only the first card of the suit. So it feels like a fullness, perhaps, but really it's the beginning. The question I might ask when this card is upright is, what feeling is trying to emerge here? Yes? And remember, the moon also has cycles. So this beginning of a feeling, this emerging emotion, if we want to keep it, will ask us to nourish it, right? To maintain it, to sustain it. Now, when these cards flip upside down, when they're reversed, what do we have? Now we might feel some emotional self-consciousness. I feel things, but I don't want anybody to see that I'm feeling it. Think of a first crush or a young crush, puppy love, that you start to feel it, but you're afraid everybody else is going to find out. That might be part of this. And it doesn't only happen when we are teenagers. Sometimes it happens when we're adults too. Yeah? So there might be some sentimentality with this in the more negative sense. Not as in it's bad, but it's a little cloying perhaps. Yeah? We might have the intent to emotionally control other people. Or we might have a more intense need to know that we are safe. Instead of feeling secure in our safety because we've got our shell as a crab, we need to know that we are safe, you know? Now, because this card is reversed, the moon is now in its similar zodiacal sign, which is Leo. So the watery moon is now in Leo, and that's a little uncomfortable. So our emotion seeks expression now, rather than its safety. Even we want to feel safe, but our emotion wants to get out. Yeah. So there's a tension there. We might need to be seen or to be affirmed. Yes, our emotion, instead of being nervous about other people noticing how we're feeling, there could be the opposite thing of everybody has to know how I'm feeling. Yeah, sometimes those reversed cards can act in two different ways. Yeah, we push it down, we don't want to look at it, or everybody's got to know. Yeah. Feelings might be dramatized. Leos are dramatic, right? So our emotions go into Leo and it's like, oh, put it on a show. Yeah. Or externalized. We project. Our emotions, we could be projecting onto other people. And sometimes the caring for other people in this card could be tied to recognition. I will care for you as long as I know that I am caring for you, that I'm putting out all of this energy for you. Does that make sense to you? And the question that I might ask with the Ace of Cups is, when it's reversed, what emotion is present but not yet flowing? Because if our emotions were flowing well, we wouldn't be needy, we wouldn't be showy, we wouldn't be protective, we wouldn't be overly demonstrative, right? It would be natural. Yes? Can you see how that works with the Ace of Cups? Now remember, these are not big things. These are nascent things. These are things that are beginning. And now we will move on to the Two of Cups. Let me move on with the twos here. Love these cards. Actually, I love the Aces of Cups. Yeah, in Tarot de Marseille, I didn't mention that, but most Aces of Cups in Tarot de Marseille, I think, are just beautiful. They're beautifully embellished. Twos of Cups are also beautiful to me in Tarot de Marseille. Yeah, this one here, you can see that, I didn't mention where these cards came from, did I? So, the Tarot de Marseille deck that I'm using here is the Noblet. It's a reproduction of the Noblet, Jean Noblet, from 1650, I think. The reproduction I have was created by Flournoy, and I will have a link in the description box if you want to go order that one. The Smith-Waite deck that I'm using is called the C.S.Tarot. It was created by Conrad Stein, and there are many versions of it. I'll have a link to his Make Playing Cards shop in the description box below. Okay, so Twos of Cups. And seeing these side by side, can you see there's a little... Can you see the mirroring ideas in these cards a little bit? I don't think I have noticed it as strongly as I do this time. Yeah. Instead of people, you see the two cups in the Tarot de Marseille deck, right? And instead of the caduceus with the winged lion on top, you see the flower rising up between the two cups. But then we've got these two things which could be dragons, it could be flowers, it could be something else. But that formation here really reminds me or feels like an echo of the Smith-Waite, or maybe the Smith-Waite is actually an echo of this one because this one's older. Right? Yes. Okay, anyways, love these two cards. And you see the cups being shared in the Smith-Waite, and you can imagine that happening in the Tarot de Marseille deck as well. Now, because it's the two, this means it's the second decan of cardinal water, now, which means we have the fixed aspect of cardinal waters, vital energies entering our spread, entering our reading here. The sun's coming out. I don't know if you've noticed that. So, that means that this decan is keyed to Scorpio. So we have Mars, which is the ruler of Scorpio. Mars in Cancer. Yes, we have Mars in Cancer. And upright. When this card is upright, you might think of things like conscious emotional exchange. So there's awareness here, right? And there's a little bit more solidity because it's the fixed aspect of cardinal water. So what is that? We have willpower and determination to our emotional exchange. Now Mars is here, so we can fight. Now we can fight a defensive battle because Mars is here in our we got the crab energized by Mars, yes? There could be intense emotions about sexual or romantic relationships. Yeah, that pairing of the two could become intense. There could be revelations here as well. Maybe confessions or emotional revelations. I just said that, didn't I? People with Mars in Cancer could be healers. And there's an aspect of healing to this card sometimes. They can be sensitive to more than just one person's needs. And they have an interest in metaphysical or occult pursuits. They might have psychic abilities, a little bit more developed than the ace. Oh, I didn't mention this about the ace. In case you're curious, my true node, which I've heard described as North Node, I think, by others, my true node is in the first decan of Cancer. I've got a lot of planets, and I've got a lot of aspects in first decans of zodiacal signs. Yeah, my sun is in the first decan of Leo. I mentioned that. My North Node is in the first decan of Cancer. Yeah, so moving right along with the twos. The moon now, because it is the second decan, is in its complement, which means it is in Aquarius. The moon in Aquarius. What does that tell us? There could be emotional connections through mutual understanding. Yeah, so there's that intellectual quality of Aquarian air being part of the emotional connection. Yeah, so we understand each other intellectually, and so there's more of an emotional connection. Does that make sense? There's a bond formed by shared ideals. I think this is the best thing, you think this is the best thing, and so I like you a lot, at least, yes? I feel a bond with you because of our shared ideals. And our feelings are balanced with perspective. Yeah, and our relationships are recognized consciously. You know how I feel about you. I know how I feel about you. You know how I feel about you. I know how you feel about me. You know how you feel about me. Yeah, there's a clarity to the relationship that is possible here. And the question I might ask, if the card is upright, is how do I emotionally position myself in relationship to whatever the situation is? So if this is not a love relationship, how do you read this card? Well, what is my emotional position related to whatever the situation we're reading is? If it's a relationship, it's the relationship. If it's work, it's what's my emotional position related to my work? Yes? Now, when the card is reversed, we might think about emotional withholding. Yes? Maybe there's some jealousy here. Maybe there's some possessiveness. Maybe there's a chance for us to exaggerate our emotions, to blow things out of proportion a little bit. And our sensitivity might be ramped up. Yes? Now the moon is now, instead of in its complement, it's in its detriment. Which means that the moon is now in Capricorn. Which means that we are maybe now emotionally reserved. Yeah, we're not focusing on our emotional state or expression, but rather we're pulling it back because we want to maybe get to work as a Cancer, or as Cancer is asking us to. Feelings could be contained by duty. And think of a Jane Eyre novel. Yeah, there are people who marry for duty. That could be the moon in Capricorn, right? I follow my father's or my family's or my society's wishes in selecting my mate, right? There could be difficulty in expressing what we need from an emotional relationship. Bonds could be blocked by control or by fear. Yeah? I want to control you so much that our bond starts to crack and disintegrate. Or I'm afraid that you're going to leave me. I'm afraid that you're going to cheat on me. I'm afraid that I'm going to cheat on you. Whatever. Our fear, I'm afraid one of us is going to get sick and die. Our fear erodes our bonds. And so when this card is reversed, the question I might ask is, what imbalance is disrupting our connection or my connection with whatever the matter is? Yes? So, interesting, yes? Emotion. Now, water in earth is not usually a problematic thing. Water being watery moon for Cancer, in Capricorn, a very earthy sign. Usually not a problematic thing, but here their desires are what? Divergent. Yes? Okay, let's go into the threes. So here we have the third decan is keyed to Pisces. Pisces, the ruler of Pisces is Jupiter, so we have Jupiter in Cancer, expansive Jupiter, which is also, interestingly enough, Jupiter's exaltation. Right? So Jupiter is exalted here. Now, we're not going to be talking about Jupiter's exaltation, but Jupiter is here being the third decan of the sign, but it's also where the sign of its exaltation. So that's an interesting thing to remember, I think. So when the card is upright, let me look at the card too. Love these cards. We got the three ladies dancing, right? Or sharing or celebrating their connection in the Smith-Waite deck. In this one, we've got plants growing around the three cups. Threes are the generative state. After 1 + 1 meets 2, the generation is 3, right? So when these cards are upright, we could think of shared emotional nourishment. Yeah, and instead of just thinking celebration, we can think of nourishing each other with our cups of celebration. There's another word that's right there on the tip of my tongue, but it's not coming out yet. Yeah, are the cups of joy, maybe the cups of celebration. So in the threes, we have religious, spiritual values with home and family. Yeah, that homey Cancerian aspect is expanded by Jupiter. Yeah, and it's maybe spiritualized or religionified, religiously expanded. Yes. Our homes are for healing and for family and for refuge. It's our safe space, especially here with the threes. Our psychic abilities are strong with threes as well. Now, an interesting thing I've found, and I haven't quite reconciled for myself, is the word research. Yes? But with the threes, we could be easily influenced by our environment, especially our home environment. We're kind. People with Jupiter in Cancer are kind. They are sympathetic. They understand emotional states, physical states, and spiritual needs of others. Yes, they get other people. It's not just the empathetic feeling, there's also understanding included in that empathy. Now, because we're here in the third decan, now when I was talking about Jupiter being exalted in Cancer, the actual heavenly light, I was about to say planet, but the moon's not a planet, it's a satellite, but still, the heavenly light that is exalted is not Jupiter with this card, but the moon. Yes, the moon is exalted. And where is the moon exalted? The moon is exalted in Taurus. So what does that mean? Emotional abundance, Jupiter, abundance, right? But now it's not because of Jupiter, it's because of the moon being exalted in Taurus. Shared pleasure. Think of those three ladies dancing, right? Feelings grounded and secure. Taurus is an earth sign. So the moon here gets some grounding. Celebration of belonging with a community is possible with the moon in Taurus. Yes? Sounds all good. All sounds good to me. And the question I might ask with the Three of Cups is, how can feeling be shared or expressed? How can I express my feeling with my community, whether it's my family, my selected family, my friends, my co-workers even, perhaps, if that is a place where that is possible for you? Or how can I express myself appropriately in any of those situations? And those situations would call for different ways of expressing yourself emotionally, right? Expressing yourself emotionally at work would and should look different from expressing yourself emotionally with your best friends or with your grandparents. Probably. Yes? So that's something to think about. When these cards are reversed, when those cups are poured out, yes, down to the ground, what do we get? We get, instead of emotional bond, we could get emotional entanglement, yeah? Tied up in knots with each other. There could be suspicion that is, that emerges with that. Beyond jealousy, now we've gone into suspicion, right? And maybe the, what? The sensitivities could be ramped up even more with this card. Now, because the card is reversed, instead of an exaltation, we have a fall. And the moon falls in Scorpio, which is in Scorpio. Just a second. I need to double check that because something feels a little bit off to me there. And it's probably right, but I'm feeling insecure about what I just said. So let me just double check here with my handy dandy little chart of exaltations and falls. Okay, so Taurus is, yes, okay, yes, I'm right. Yes. So, yes, trust myself, right? I'm being a little bit emotional, a little bit Three of Cups reversed right there. Yeah, so the moon falls in Scorpio. Interesting, because there's also going to be a decan of Scorpio where the moon is in charge, right? But here we have the moon in its fall, which means what? Emotional undercurrents are perhaps a little bit stronger than what's happening out here in the real world, out here in the world, yes? Jealousy, secrecy, or suspicion are intensified. And our emotions are uncomfortably intensified, perhaps even. That scorpion aspect of our emotions the negative aspect of the scorpion quality to emotions is amplified. there are good aspects of Scorpion emotions. We'll get to that in a little bit. Feelings could overwhelm our container, whatever that container is, because our feelings need a container. Water requires a container or it just goes everywhere, right? Our joys could be complicated by power dynamics within our relationships. So, when this card is reversed, the question I might ask is, what is distorting my emotional exchange with other people? And that is an echo, I think, of the moon in Scorpio. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's move on to the fours. And I will move down onto the fours down here. And now the fours. The Smith-Waite 4 looks a little bit glum, right? Which might feel a little bit odd if these cards are associated with the first decan of Scorpio, which is fixed water. So with these cards, the way I'm using them now, it's fixed water's vital attributes entering our reading through these cards. And Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. And just for full disclosure, this first decan is where my ascendant is, my rising is. Yeah, my rising sign is Scorpio, and it's in this first decan of Scorpio. So what does that mean for me now? Yes, it means contained emotion. Now remember, I was saying that emotion needs a container, that water needs a container. Well, hell, here we got it. We got a container for our emotions right here in the 4. There's a stability there. But still, our emotions are intense. Yeah, we have intense emotions. We have strong willpower, Mars. And we might be utilizing old things, old discarded things here. We might be dredging up old stuff from the past in a negative aspect, yes? But still, in the positive sense, if we use those old things, if we use those discarded things, those can be transformed. Scorpio loves transforming things. Yes? So there's no fear of change, and there's no fear of death with Scorpio, especially this first decan. A word to think of might be rejuvenation. Scorpios can be healers. My grandmother was a Scorpio. There's there's an unrecognized, I think, healer quality to Scorpio. They're enterprising. Because of that active Mars, right? Mars is now a watery aspect of the planet, but there's still that vital power of Mars here in the water. You can think of Mars as being matured a little bit. And on the other hand, they might not be really good with people who show weakness or who show laziness, right? They want other people to be strong and productive, and maybe protective like they are. Now, because we have Mars in its domicile of Scorpio, more mature Mars in its domicile of Scorpio, we have emotional intensity. Yes, and that intensity could be held in reserve. We're not going to let it all flow out like maybe sometimes a Cancer might, or a Pisces, definitely. There might be some reserve there. Our desire, Martian desire, could be turned inward. And our feelings could be focused, crystallized, like a diamond, that fixed aspect, yes? There are strong boundaries, and those strong boundaries are primarily around our emotional space. We might be very open intellectually. We might be able to go out and work for others, right? And we share our resources, but our emotional space could be very strongly bounded, have strong boundaries. And the question I might ask with the Four of Cups is, what feeling needs to be held or contained? What would it be best for me to not necessarily hold back, but maybe hold? Yeah, embrace a feeling. Or contain a feeling so it doesn't just go slopping out everywhere. Does that make sense? How do I want to fix my emotions a little bit better? Now, if these cards are reversed, where do we go? We go for emotional outbursts, flying off the handle. Yes? That aggressive aspect of Mars comes bursting out. We might be frank in a brutal way when we have the card in reverse. In reverse. We could be uncompromising. Yeah. Do or die attitudes are strong with this card in reverse. Our sex drive is ramped up along with our jealousy and possessiveness. Or we could become egotistical, right? That the ego quality of Mars and Aries could start poking its head up through the waters here. And that's because when the card is in reverse, we have Mars in its similar, which was on the other side of the ladder, which was Aries, right? That Mars and Aries aspect comes through. Now, this is a watery Mars. It might be wrong, it might be incorrect, it might be imprecise, but I like to think of it as watery Mars returning to its origins and like going back to high school in Aries. And what does that mean? That emotion which was contained, crystallized, bounded, erupts outwards. Yeah, with maybe a lot more energy than it might in other signs, right? That fixed nature is now impatience with our feelings and the feelings of others. Sudden emotional assertions, right? Not paving the way, not getting there in a smoothed out path, but bah! You hate me, right? I love you, damn it! Kind of thing. And if there is stagnation here, if there is stagnation in a situation, there could be a breakthrough or a breakout with this card in reverse. Which is interesting because generally, a lot of people look at that card particularly as emotional stagnation, as ennui, right? But reverse, that breaks out, breaks or is broken through. And the question I might ask for the Four of Cups is, where has containment turned into withdrawal? And remember, when a powerful being like a Scorpio gets backs into a corner or gets backed into a corner, there will eventually be an eruption. So perhaps to prevent that eruption, we want to find out, where am I withdrawing? Right? Where have my boundaries become imprisonment? Yes? Okay, so now we move into the fives. Fives. dark card in the Smith-Waite deck, right? The guy with the cups knocked over in front of him. Think of disappointment. But now what we have is the second decan of Scorpio, which is keyed to Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter. So we have Jupiter in Scorpio, and we have the mutable aspect of fixed water's vital attributes entering our reading through this card, through these cards. And the thing I might think of off the top of my head is grief acknowledged. I know where I've been hurt or where I've been feeling hurt. Yes? So that softening, that mutability of Pisces in Scorpio gives us a little bit more of a kinder, more sympathetic way of approaching life. We can help those in need. But we still expect people to help themselves too, right? We're not just going to take care of everybody like a Cancer might. I expect you to be able to stand up on your own 2 feet, but I will help you do that. Yes? People with this aspect might be more willing to sacrifice. Think of, suddenly I'm thinking of Odin hanging himself on a tree to get the benefit of prophecy and the runes. Yeah? Just something that leapt into my mind. And that has nothing to do with this, probably, but it was a Scorpion kind of thing to do, to have that kind of hit, right? So, able to serve the community better. Yeah, our desire to, our crystallized, our diamond of care is now, with Jupiter, able to radiate out into a community. And we can share our unconscious ideas with other people. We either become the carriers of good things out, or we could be substance addicts here. We have intuitive abilities. This is the section for mystics, occultists, magicians, especially people interested in reincarnation, life after death, that kind of thing. Now, because this is a second decan, we have Mars, which is the ruler of Scorpio, right? In its complement, which is Libra. Same side of the ladder. Yeah, in its partner's sign, Venus is its partner. We have Mars in Libra. So, our emotional pain can be evaluated and weighed. A little bit of that Libran balance, yes? And our losses can be processed. We might process them with comparison with other people, but they can be processed. There's a desire for repair and for balance again. And the grief that we feel seeks meaning. What is the purpose of my feeling this? Yes? What can I gain? How can I grow? What is the benefit of this? What is the meaning of my suffering? And generally, which kind of matches that card, yes. Generally, the question I might ask with these two cards is, what emotional loss or tension is being tested here? Yeah, what emotional loss or tension, I've lost something or something feels uncomfortable, what is being tested? Now, when this card was reversed, maybe instead of grief acknowledged, we have grief entrenched. Yeah, we are Have you ever encountered personally or seen in the movies somebody who is entrenched in their grief? Yes, who is so enmeshed in their own grief that there's no desire or even a thought of leaving it behind. So that could be part of these cards reversed. Our psychic impressions could become fearful, right? We're drawn to the negative ideas, thoughts with our psychic impressions. Now, people who have this kind of attribute in their natal charts, they could be either saints or devils, and maybe they flip from one to the other. Yes? There's a fascination with power or destruction, which could be used for good or bad. Yes? Power can be used, of course, for good or bad. Destruction can be used for good or bad. Yeah, you destroy the thing that is hurting people. It could be a benefit. Or you destroy the people, which would not be a benefit, perhaps, probably. Yes? And the question I might ask for these... I'm sorry. We're still talking about the reversals. We didn't talk about the detriment, right? So now, because it's the second decan, we have Mars in its detriment, which is now Taurus. So there are emotional fixations here that are possible with this card reversed. Yes? There's an inability to let go. That Martian and Tauran holding on to things becomes a detriment, becomes the problem. We cling to what is lost. We lost a person, we're clinging to their memory or our expectations of what should have happened. We lose a house and we're clinging to that's my house, why is it gone? Yes? And our grief stagnates, and we stagnate in that grief. And so when the card is reversed, the question I might ask is, what feeling is being resisted or internalized? Perhaps even repressed. Yes? Those things seem appropriate for this card reversed. Do you think so? If you do, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so let's move on to the sixes. The sixes. Now, this is a card, especially in the Smith Waite, that often dissatisfied with the way I read it. I have been in the past. Now, let's see if that changes. Yeah, because now we have the third decan of Scorpio, which is keyed to Cancer, which is cardinal water, right? So we have the cardinal aspect of fixed water's vital attributes entering our spread, and because of that, we have the moon in Scorpio. So some ideas we might think of with the moon in Scorpio are emotional maturity. Yeah? So maybe we could think of, we're looking back at our past, maybe, and recognizing how much we've grown since then. Maybe. There's strong intuition here. There's the possibility of explosive tempers. There's concern with home improvement and family affairs, that Cancerian trait. We're interested in psychic medium communications, maybe. We're interested in communicating with our people who have passed on. Don't know why that was so difficult. We might also be interested in acquisition, getting stuff, right? We're ambitious and our ideals need emotional outlet. Yeah? So instead of like a Capricorn wants to work their way to the top, yeah? Now our ambition needs some emotional release. Does that make sense? And because we have Mars here, the planet of Scorpio is Mars. This is the third decan, so Mars is in its exaltation, which is Capricorn. We have emotional control through structure, right? That earthy need for control and organization which is different from Virgo's need for organization, but the Capricorn desire for organization is strong here, and that wants to control our emotions. Our past experiences can be integrated, though. And our memory can be used constructively. Yeah, our memories through the watery aspect of the unconscious and Scorpio, we can put them to use in our Capricornian aspect here. And we can handle our deep feelings in a more mature way. Now, when the card goes in reverse, the question. What question will I ask? How can emotional balance be restored? That is the question I might ask with this card. How can I get back to the balance that I remember feeling in the past? Whenever that was. Now, when this card is reversed, what do we have? We have ideas of emotional regression. Yeah? We get that regression aspect maybe here. Instead of nostalgia, it's regression. So there's a moodiness. There's a propensity to rapid emotional change. Emotional sensitivity. And our friendly manner masks our inner feelings. We hide our real feelings behind a facade of friendly. We're tough and determined. We're pretending to be friendly, but there's a lot behind that. Yes? Why? Well, now we have Mars in its fall, which is Cancer. Yes? Mars in Cancer. And this is watery Mars in Cancer, but there's a disillusion here, a dilution here. What do we call it? Dilute? Things are diluted. So there's an emotional vulnerability that can be overwhelming. Because remember, this is the fall. This is the challenge of Mars. Our past wounds are reopened. Right? Even if we felt like there was healing there, they reopen and we start bleeding all over the place. Emotionally bleeding. We can have difficulty maintaining our boundaries. And so the question I might ask with this card is, what imbalance from the past is still here, still lingering around me? Yeah? Now, let's move on to the next set of three, which starts with the Seven of Cups. And, okay, another full disclosure, I've always liked the Seven of Cups. Yeah? I see this card here as possibility, potential. And now we have these cards associated with the first decan of Pisces. Yes? And Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, so we have Jupiter in Pisces, and we have mutable waters, vital attributes, entering our spread through these cards. And words I might think of are many emotional possibilities. Yes? That kind of rings or resonates well with that card, don't you think? So there's an introspective and meditative aspect of Pisces that is strong in these cards. But we're also good at visualization. Our clairvoyant capacities are strong here. We can see into the future. We can tap into our accumulated wisdom of our subconscious resources and maybe even the collective unconscious with this card as well. And a word I might think of is perception. Yeah, that kind of works well with this one. And we are seers who can comprehend the esoteric. Because this is the first decan, again, we have Jupiter domiciled here in Pisces. So our imagination opens with Jupiter's expansiveness, yes? Our compassion can expand. We are the lovers of the world. Emotional possibilities multiply in these cards. And our vision is through our emotions. Now, it's not the intellectual vision of the mind like maybe an Aquarian is. This is our emotional vision, our psychic emotional vision of the future or the distant or whatever. And the question I might ask with these cards is, what emotional options or meanings need reevaluation? I want to double check what it is I'm receiving, what I'm feeling, what impressions I'm getting. Because I'm getting a lot of impressions with this card. So checking, double checking, clarifying, validating, evaluating are all good questions to ask when these cards come up upright. Now, what happens, when these cards are reversed? So, in reversal, I might think of things like narrowing vision. Instead of the expansiveness that we got with the opening of Jupiter in Pisces, now we've got some contraction. And taking the easy way here is a trap for us. Yeah? Well, I just want to do what's easy. I don't want to work too hard. We don't really envision the future so much when these are reversed. So we take it on blind faith. It'll all work out, right? Right? Yeah? And we commit without any kind of guarantee, without any security, without any assurance. It doesn't, I commit. Even without any, perhaps, I commit, you commit. What is that called? It's not response. It is, tell me in the comments below. What is that word I'm looking for? Anyways, you know what I mean, right? I hope you do. Now, because this card is in its reversal, Jupiter, instead of being in its domicile, is in its similar on the other side of the ladder, which means Jupiter is now in Sagittarius. I'm sorry, yeah, maybe that's where it will be for you on this side. Jupiter is now in Sagittarius. Also a rulership, right? But we have watery Jupiter in fiery Sagittarius. So there's emotional idealism here, not being realistic. And our idealism might sharpen into belief without any grounding or foundational evidence. Our confusion could be replaced by conviction. Again, maybe without any evidence. But still, we might be able to choose one dream over many. Now, that could be good, but it could be bad. We could be choosing one that is inappropriate for us. Yes? And the question I would want to ask is, what confusion or illusion is clouding my feeling? Because if my feelings are clouded, am I going to make the right choice when I choose one dream over the other? Am I going to choose the easy one instead of the one that is probably correct for me? Am I going to choose the one that everybody else chooses instead of the one that's correct for me? My vision's not clear. Right? All of this fire has dried me up maybe a little bit. Jupiter, watery Jupiter being in Sagittarius. Does that make sense? Okay, so 7s, 8s, the 8s. The 8 is always looked at as a very uncomfortable card in the Smith-Waite tradition, definitely. What is it speaking to us now through these astrological aspects? Well, it's the second decan of Pisces, which means it is keyed to Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. So we have the moon in Pisces. Yes? So we have the cardinal aspect of mutable waters, fire, vital attributes, mutable waters, vital attributes entering our reading through these cards. And some things to think about are conscious departure. Leaving with awareness. Not just blindly walking away. Our homes are our spiritual retreats here. This is where we can contemplate. This is where we can be imaginative. And we can express our imagination at home. Now, that home could be our physical structure, or it could be wherever we find our safe space, yes? But probably it's with family and home in these cards. And we can lavish our time and energy on our homes. And we can act decisively when we see the need. It gives a little bit of clarity to diffused Pisces, yes? Still, we need freedom to dream and experience strong feelings. Sympathy might be a word for these cards, which is odd because you see the guy walking away. Why would somebody who feels sympathetic walk away? Something to think about. Maybe we can find a little bit more answers. We can find some more answers when we think of Jupiter now being in its complement, right? Because the second decan, upright, the ruling planet is in its complement, which is Gemini. Yes, Jupiter's pair is Mercury. On the other side, on the same side, it is Gemini. So we have some emotional detachment here, possible. Now, the airy quality is added to Pisces, so we can add a little bit of space. But it's space that is created by understanding, not by the desire to detach, but rather we understand so there's some space that can enter. So we're not so emotionally tied into whatever it is we're thinking about right now. Yes? There's some intellectual space that gives maybe some clarity, perhaps. We leave, but we leave with explanation when we leave. We don't just walk off in the middle of the night without any discussion. We talk it out. We talk it through. It's time to leave. Yeah? Our feelings can be translated into a narrative. We can talk about our feelings. And whatever movements we make, they're prompted by our insights, our understanding, our sudden burst of knowledge, perhaps. Yes? And the question I might ask when these cards are upright is, what emotional effort or departure is required? Where do I need to put some energy into action around my emotions, and maybe that action is walking away? Yes? Now, when the cards are reversed, are we still walking away? Let's see. Here we've got a stuckedness, yeah? We're stuck in our dissatisfaction. Maybe. We're easily hurt, and then we withdraw. Yeah? Think of that Cancerian crab, right? Because this is the Cancer, this decan is keyed to Cancer, going back in its shell. But when our mental suffering is alleviated, then we can start helping others. But until then, we're ducking back in. Yeah? Second decan, card is reversed. The planet is Jupiter for Pisces, is now in its detriment, which is Virgo. Jupiter in Virgo, not very happy. Yeah? So, what does that mean? Emotional dissatisfaction without clarity. Yeah, I'm not really sure why I feel so bad. And this bad feeling isn't giving me clarity about the situation. I'm just feeling weird, ugly, unhappy, whatever. Because we might be feeling that, we might start picking things apart. Yeah? We might be start picking apart our feelings. And maybe because of that, or maybe not, we also might be unable to release those feelings. Because we're analyzing them too much. Right? Analysis paralysis. Now this is all in the emotional sphere. And so a question I might ask when this card is reversed is, where is the emotional effort misdirected or avoided? I need to put some effort into my emotional state, not just pick things apart, but figure things out, analyze them, or put the energy into putting them down and walking away. And put the energy into explanation, talking about why there is the need to walk away now, right? But before I'm able to do that, I need to put the energy into discovering where my emotional energy has been misdirected or avoided. Yes? Okay, so, friends, we are moving into the Nine of Cups. The Nines of Cups. What does that mean? Yeah? I know people who don't like this card. The mansplaining card, the self-satisfied guy, they don't like the image of that. But remember, we're all this guy. Doesn't matter what body we are inhabiting, whether we're in a male body, a female body, a cis body, a trans body, an intersex body, it doesn't matter. We're all this guy. Yes? But now what are we talking about? And this is traditionally the wish card, right? The wish card, especially this card. Here we have the third decan of Pisces. This is the last decan of the wheel for the water signs, which means this is keyed to Mars, It's keyed to Scorpio, I should say, which is ruled by Mars. So we have Mars in Pisces. When Mars is Pisces, we might think of heartfelt contentment. Yeah? Mars is here in all of this water, but it's a watery Mars in all of this water, and there's an abundance here, and so Mars doesn't maybe need to chase after anything anymore. But because Mars is here, we have great willpower, we have great strength, and we have some determination. This isn't watered down, diffused Mars, but it's satisfied Mars. Yeah? And these feelings or our state could be, or whatever the situation that we're talking about, could be intimately related to the process of death and rebirth. And it doesn't necessarily mean the death of a loved one or our death, but a death of a situation, a death of whatever. There's a death and rebirth, a transformation that is possibly indicated by these cards. We are engaged in making our unconscious minds become conscious. Bringing stuff up from the depths. Yes? And the subconscious debris that is inevitably down there can be consumed and transformed by the fire quality that Mars still carries through the water signs. Yeah? So there's penetration here, magnetism here, deep sensuality here. Because Mars has sexual drive, right? In this ocean of water, there's some sensuality possible. Now, remember, Jupiter is still here. In the third decan, Jupiter is in its exaltation, which means we bring it back to Cancer. Yes? Oh, one thing I did not mention. I'll mention it in just a moment. Okay, hang on. Let's focus here on Jupiter in its exaltation of Cancer with these cards upright. Emotional fulfillment. Yeah, Jupiter is exalted and expanded here in Cancer. So our wishes are rooted in genuine feelings. We're content with our connections with other people, with our connections in the world. And the satisfaction that we have nourishes not only me, but others. Our satisfaction can help enrich the people around us that we care for. Yes? And the question I might ask when these cards are upright is, what feeling has reached its fulfillment or saturation? Right? We haven't gotten to the tens yet, but there is a saturation here. Yes? When these cards are reversed, what do we have? We have joy restrained. Yeah? Or denied. We might deny the good things that are in our lives. We can hypnotize ourselves into anything we choose, which means it's probably not real, right? Because it takes hypnosis for us to get attached to it. But even when these cards are reversed, we have a healing possibility. But we seek out maybe the sickness that needs to be healed. Jupiter, which was in its exaltation with these cards were upright, is now in its fall of Jupiter in Capricorn. So our emotional fulfillment is blocked by obligations, by our need to work, by our responsibility. Our joys are postponed, perhaps by the same things. Or there could be that imposter syndrome, yeah? Our satisfaction feels undeserved, or maybe it feels delayed. Like it's not, when is it going to come? When is it going to come? When is it going to come? That could be here. Or it could be the satisfaction that we are experiencing. We feel like we don't deserve it. Yes? And the question I might ask when this card is reversed is, what desire persists past its healthy point? Yeah? I've had this desire and we've passed the point of this desire being helpful. Now I'm attached to something that is maybe detrimental to me. Does that make sense? Now, the thing I wanted to bring up before we move into the tens was the thing I forgot, which I think is really interesting and fascinating to me, is that my moon is in Pisces. It is in the second decan of Pisces. Remember, my sun was in Leo. It's in the first decan of Leo, which means it's keyed to Leo, and the planet is, the heavenly light is the sun. So my sun is the sun in Leo, right? My moon is the moon in Pisces, because the second decan of Pisces is keyed to Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. So we have moon in Pisces. And so that card, the Eight of Cups, is keyed to my moon, which I think is just fascinating. So, okay, let's just move on to the tens. Yay, 10. So, tens. Happy family, happy home, rainbows and sunshine and all of that, maybe. If you're a thoth reader, you would say, no, that's not the happiness card, right? But for Smith-Waite people, oftentimes this is the happy family, happy love, happy, joy, right? But what is it for us now? Because now our tens, remember, are beyond the nines. They are saturation to the point of the inability to differentiate, and it's the point of the liminal space. So something's got to happen. Or it's going to explode, or it needs to be crystallized. Something's got to happen, right? So these tens, 10 of Cups, water still, of course. There's a feeling diffused throughout the field. All containment is gone. Yes? And there's no clear subject or object boundary for the feelings, which is going to be different from the projection, which was mentioned in an earlier card, right? It's not projection, it's that subject-object differentiation has dissolved or is dissolving. And you can think of somebody in transcendental meditation, for example, or on some mind-altering drug, maybe. Our emotional atmosphere is all that we have rather than emotional exchange. And I don't know if that makes sense to you. So remember, we've got this emotional diffusion, right? The subject-object boundary is dissolved, and what we've experienced, instead of being, I give you I give me, I feel your love, you feel my love, what we feel is an general emotional atmosphere around us. Right? And there's a pressure towards settling here. Yeah, water seeks the lowest point, right? There's a pressure towards settling or crystallizing or draining. It's starting to get to be maybe too much. So when these cards are upright, maybe the thing we want to ask is, what emotional field is so full it must transform? There's a desire to settle, there's a desire to crystallize or drain, but it's not there. So what I was talking about was like non-differentiation and no subject-object boundary, but there's a potential there of emotional pressure too. And the desire is to settle, to crystallize, to reform, but it's not happening yet. So what needs transformation? Now, when these are reversed, what do we get? The emotional field is saturated, but we haven't been able to name what that feeling is. What is this thing I'm feeling that is just so intense and big and maybe overwhelming, and I don't know what it is? I can't speak it. Yes, it's not, there's no clarity. The emotional density, without our ability to, or without our, okay, let's keep ability. Without our ability to communicate it is there, but why are we not able to communicate it? It could be because we don't understand it, we don't have the words for it, or because we're too afraid to talk about it. We don't have the energy to talk about it, maybe. So it's not an emotional absence, it's a fullness to an extreme that could be too difficult to bear. And any harmony that might be felt is very fragile. We might be sentimental, but without any grounding to it. We could be entirely disconnected. Remember, in upright, it was so connected. Now we're disconnected from that field. And there could be an unspoken longing, a deep, unspoken, and maybe unrecognized longing. And to maintain the peace, maybe we avoid emotional truth, because our emotional truth we're worried is going to destroy. Remember we said that harmony is fragile? That harmony will be destroyed. So the threshold here is acknowledgement. Something needs to be acknowledged, right? So the reversal asks, what feeling has already formed but has not been acknowledged? Yeah, what emotional pressure is present but unacknowledged? Does that make sense? Okay, friends. If it makes sense, please let me know in the comments below. If it does not make sense, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I adore hearing from you. And I adore you. And I'm grateful for you for walking this journey with me as I, again, rediscover what I'm doing, what I want to do with Tarot, and as I walk the lines of origins to deeper strata, as I peel back the symbolic palimpsest to discover what I find lying beneath, and acknowledge that this is an ongoing process. Yes? So friends, thank you. Thank you for being here. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.